You're listening to That's Pretty Dark,
the podcast where we talk about all of the entertainment that scared us as children
and still haunts us as adults. So grab your flashlight and join us as we take a frightfully nostalgic look over our shoulders
and under our beds.
and in our closets.
And together we'll realize, whoa, that's pretty dark.
Pretty dark.
I've never been good at time. I hate time. It moves too quickly.
I could not agree more.
I don't like it.
It's kind of the worst.
Welcome back.
Welcome back. Welcome back to That's Pretty Dark.
Show.
Oh, man. I've heard so many podcast hosts do that where they try to, say the next word, finish each other's sentences.
Oh, no. God, it's awful. We'll never do that.
I'm going to try not to. And, I mean, to each his own. I don't mind it when other people do it, but I never want to hear myself do it.
I mean, no.
That's all.
Don't do it. I hate when everyone does
You
it.
probably hate when everyone does it. That's okay.
Stop it.
To each his own.
To each his own.
We're back now.
We're back.
That's Pretty Dark, a podcast about all the dark and frightfully nostalgic things.
I'm Christian Mott.
And I'm Kaylin Andrews.
Hi, Kaylin.
Hi, Christian. I have come prepared for these episodes as we were recording. I would like to announce to the world that I'm wearing a Hocus Pocus t-shirt.
Perfect. Got a picture.
Oh, great. Thanks, Mom.
All right. So, where this episode falls in the season, in 1992, it's episode 4.
Mm-hmm.
But this was the pilot that was aired 2 times before that season ever aired. So this came out in Canada and in the US on 2 separate years leading up to Are You Afraid of the Dark being an actual
That's right.
TV show.
It's kind of like a proof of concept. You know, it was so much before the rest of the series. It was just, this is doable. This is a show that people might like.
Mm-hmm. Which is funny because the continuity is a bit messed up
Mm-hmm.
because they didn't know it was going to be, episode 4
Mhm.
when they made it. And so they had to kind of just sort of forget about continuity because
Mhm.
they introduced things in the first 3 episodes that don't make sense. Really leading up. So, but we'll get into that stuff. I think it's so fun because as filmmakers, as we keep saying, we write and make movies. And so we love to look at this stuff.
And I've grown up loving it my whole life. So
It's so fun.
goofs, bloopers, behind the scenes.
Yeah, we make fun of it
Best.
because it's so easy to mess things up and it's really hard to get things right.
Yeah.
That's just true for life.
We know how difficult it is. So it just fascinates us that this can happen and it can still be a successful and wonderful show. And nobody's perfect is the moral.
Yeah. If we can go, look at that. They messed that up. That's great. I'm doing okay.
And they didn't mind. But that's how it works.
Yeah, they don't care. I don't care. Makes me feel good about myself.
Me too.
So anyway, let's get started. This is The Tale of the Twisted Claw.
So excited.
This episode, the pilot of Are You Afraid of the Dark, was written by Chloe Brown, and it was directed by the show creator, DJ McHale.
Well, Chloe Brown is actually DJ McHale.
I saw that.
Jaw drop. So he wrote under a pen name, Chloe Brown.
I saw that. DJ McHale as Chloe Brown. I went, maybe that's a pseudonym, but I didn't look into it because I'm an idiot.
From what I could find, yes, it's his pen name.
Good for him.
So the show creator also wrote and directed this episode.
Why do you think he did that?
Oh, the pen name?
Do we have a reason?
I don't have a reason. I did mention it in some of my notes, but I don't know. I don't know if it was to diversify the cast or the crew, I mean.
To be
or,
like written by a woman.
I don't know if they were really doing that in the 90s as like a positive, really, like it might be today. So I don't know.
Maybe it was more palatable to think that it was written by a woman.
Maybe. Yeah.
Because he was already having to convince Nickelodeon to go, this is fine. We can do this. It's
make a scary
It's to
show.
scare children, but it's written by a woman.
Maybe so. Maybe it was to make it softer.
Maybe.
That's very possible.
Maybe it softens the blow, maybe even to parents.
DJ, if you're out there, we'd love to talk to you. Please
Honestly,
tell us all the
yeah.
reasons.
We'll have him on one day when we're, famous and
Incredible.
can afford him to make it happen. So we need you guys to rate, review, and subscribe. And anyway, sorry, derail. Chloe Brown, DJ McHale, same person.
One and the same.
So you want a summary?
Hit me with the summary. Tell me the summary.
So 2 boys who play a trick on an old lady return to her house the following night on Halloween. So instead of treats, she gives them a trick of her own. It's a wooden vulture's claw. She says it grants wishes, each of which have dire consequences, driving home the age-old adage, be careful what you wish for, you just might get it.
Ooh.
So this is famously based on the story The Monkey's Paw by W.W. Jacobs, which I read in preparation for this.
I didn't. So.
I've read it before, back in college at some point. I won't do a deep dive on this, but
4 deeps.
yeah, it's been done a lot of times. There's this talisman or magical object of some kind that you get and it grants you wishes, right? It's mentioned.
Aladdin.
Exactly. I was going to say it's referenced in The Monkey's Paw. The Arabian Nights is mentioned as a reference.
Nice.
So
that makes me happy.
Because this was published in like 1902 in a collection of stories called The Woman of the Barge or The Lady of the Barge or something like that. It's a collection of short stories by Jacobs. Basically, it's this, dark and stormy night, as it always goes. And there's this old like lieutenant in the army or something. He comes to this house. It's a man and woman and his son. And he's basically there to have dinner with them, catch up on old times, tell his old war stories, because this is all inspired by, England's relationship with and complete rule over India for hundreds of years. The East India Trading Company and everything.
Gotta love it. Yeah.
There's a lot of that comes
all this weird
out of,
cultural,
out of England from kind of their racism and fear of the other. Anybody who isn't just white and speaks English.
Yeah, and that's throughout all literature.
Even Dracula came from that fear of a man from a foreign country coming and infiltrating the white society and existing as one of their own.
Racism is bad, kids. We don't like it.
We should also say we're from the American South. So, we understand how bad white supremacy is. It's so bad.
It is so bad and so prevalent and just depressing. So, yeah.
Don't do it, kids. Say no to racism. Dare you to say no.
Double dog dare you in the style of the 90s. Say no.
So, yeah, this guy's coming from some big war, telling old war stories, drinking up just a ton of whiskey. I mean, he talked like he had 4 or 5 hot whiskeys, and I was just like, damn.
Putting it down.
He basically says, oh, yeah, I got this monkey's paw. And he proceeds to tell him this story, how it was cursed or given magical powers, blessed, cursed, whatever. Take it however you want.
Enchanted.
It gives 3 different men 3 wishes, which, of course, it said men. So I don't know if that's like a woman can't do it. I don't know.
It won't work for us. We are just the women folk.
It's for men only. Boys only.
Gag. Anyway. Ew.
It's the idea that you take it and you make a wish, but your wish has consequences. This has been done so many times, and you never.
It's like a fable, right? Like a.
Well, it's from Arabian Nights. I mean, Aladdin getting 3 wishes, and but the whole be careful what you wish for. I mean, I've heard that my whole life.
Theme, yeah, throughout.
It's just a common theme. It's going to give you what you ask for, but depending on how you phrase it,
all these loopholes and
and the whole point. No, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, I think about those kinds of things all the time, probably from shows like this, like The Tale of the Twisted Claw, Are You Afraid of the Dark? Probably because of shows like that, I'm very careful with my words all the time. And in my wishes in my head and the thoughts that I have, I never want to harm anyone or anything.
Yeah, karma. You'll be very careful.
And so I'm very paranoid about saying things properly.
The golden rule.
Yes.
I found myself wondering, why would this guy enchant this thing? And they're called fakir. They're like a holy man in India.
Okay.
Basically, they live off of alms,
like a sage or
yeah, and they can give you wisdom or whatever. I was thinking, why would he do this? And so the sergeant major says he wanted to show that fate ruled people's lives and that those who interfered with it did so to their sorrow.
Basically, you can't control anything, and it's always going to go the way a different way than the way that you want it to. Yeah,
but my question that I probably should just ask at the end of the episode, but how do you interfere with fate unless it's literally handed to you in the form of this cursed object, this item that says, here, this is your opportunity to tempt fate and change fate.
Change something.
But don't do it. It's just, basically it was just like a temptation. It's just given to you as a choice, which there's also the illusion, it's the Garden of Eden.
You have a choice here, but you only have the wrong choice.
Yeah. If you act on this at all, it's wrong. And so it's so interesting. It's
very interesting.
How else would you be able to tempt fate? How would you, as a human person, how would you go, I think I'll just change fate today. I'll just mess things up. But how? Unless it was handed to you. I don't know. So anyway, that's very interesting and it's very philosophical. And I don't know that there's an answer to that. But if anybody has an answer, or if you have any thoughts on that, send us an email. Tell us what you think about that, because I think that's really interesting.
It's an interesting thing to theorize about, because it's whether you can affect change or not, basically.
Absolutely. Can you affect change?
And then at what cost? Because if you affect, it's like the Back to the Future principle of,
exactly.
If you go back and you change something, it's never going to be what it is right now.
Right.
And by perception, those things are probably going to be bad because they might result in you not existing at all.
Right. But even that's only possible because he literally was able to time travel.
Right.
It was given to him as an option.
An opportunity was presented.
Otherwise, I mean, I don't know what like a real life example would be. I'm interested to see what people think. So send us an email. We'll read your emails.
You're just a victim to fate either way, basically, unless you have that, option.
Yeah. Super interesting.
Cool.
So,
thanks, Are You Afraid of the Dark, for being literary.
Yeah, being literary. Anyway, so when the episode begins, after the intro and everything, you open in the middle of a story being told. You see, usually you open with them arriving to the campsite with the campfire. Them
being the Midnight Society.
The Midnight Society, yes. So,
but I will note, I mean, you may be about to say this, so I apologize if I'm taking it from you, but it opens in a story, but it isn't the story. Right. It's not the story that's being told as the tale. They still do the moment with the fire and everything, but the story that we open on isn't the story of the night, which is rare. It doesn't happen on this show. It
doesn't. You can tell it's season 1. They're figuring things out. They're figuring how do we convey this concept to children. And so what's interesting to me about this is on the official season 1, episode 1 that you will cover next time, they do a full-fledged intro.
They do.
For the Midnight Society.
Correct.
But this one, they don't have that. So they had to quickly give these characters dialogue and present you with a lot of information. They had to show you a lot.
It's exposition through just the act of doing it.
Honestly, it's done really well.
Yeah, I like it.
I'm pretty impressed. So you open with a story, and then it's this little jump scare of this kid who's lying in bed. And then he wakes up in the middle of the night. You hear the clock is ticking. We all had that memory from childhood where you're just like laying in bed and you're like, is something behind me? And then like the Grim Reaper or some ghoul or something comes out and scares him.
Looks like a Dementor.
Looks like a Dementor, exactly, yeah.
It reminds me of those like 2-sentence horror stories that were really popular online for a while there.
Yeah, they're still happening.
Yeah.
It's like a whole like a Netflix series, I guess.
Because it's something, just a very short, sweet, like that would be incredibly terrifying. Like the familiar, safe feeling isn't what you thought it was.
So weirdly enough, he's like not a story character. Doesn't matter who he is, but his name is Tony.
I hope you're doing well, Tony, out in your world. Hope the Dementor went away.
Yeah, I hope you're fine, Tony. He's played by a guy named Christian Maston, which is interesting because the gym teacher in this episode, his name is Gordon Maston.
Oh.
So I don't know if they're related. I couldn't find anything that said they were related or not. So if
that'd be cool.
Some other Are You Afraid of the Dark info buff out there knows. But anyway, so he screams, and then we transition to the Midnight Society. Kiki and Kristen both scream in sequence, and it's just so 90s and so cheesy, and I love it. And you find out that the story's being told by Eric, but he doesn't have an ending figured out. So they're giving him a hard time. They're like, what's the ending? Well, I don't know. I'll figure it out next week. So immediately next week, next time. They do this regularly. And then Gary's like, well, what about tonight? It's almost lights out, and we still don't have a full story. We're jumping through all the characters. Kristen, she criticizes Eric for calling a meeting without having a full story. So that's a weird canon moment.
It is, yeah, because he called the meeting.
He called the meeting. She says, don't call a meeting without having a story. And so
I didn't even think about that.
They don't just meet every week to tell stories.
They call a meeting when they have something to say.
Apparently.
Or maybe don't.
But I don't think that's ever introduced or addressed ever again. I think they say this and they just forget it. But anyway, so as we jump through these characters, this is just telling the audience, this is the first time anyone's ever seen this. And now we know immediately, this is a routine gathering of teenagers who get together to tell scary stories.
And I'm on board. I was immediately hooked. I'm into it.
Board.
This is where I want to be. If I could be at the fire, at the meeting, I would be.
So I love that there's this like historical like context that we get telling stories around a campfire.
And I mean, that's history.
It's just history.
That's history for generations of different cultures, and the oral history and the tradition of oral history is so like deeply ingrained in us as people.
Yeah.
It makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, it resonates in a way that nothing else really ever will.
I think the scary stories just better acquainted us with the world that was around us, which was terrifying.
So they turn to David, who says he's got a story, and he's presented as this really shy, kind of quiet kid.
Yeah.
And that doesn't really add up because one, like he had to get into the society by telling a story. That's part of the canon. You have to, if you show up to be part of it, you're put to the test and you tell a story.
You can't know where they are. You can't, it's a very secret society.
Yeah. And you'll get into that too next time.
I will. Yeah.
But it's so interesting that Frank is the one that gives David a hard time. And David is the one that actually brought Frank.
That's right.
Isn't that weird?
Yeah, in the Tale of the Phantom Cab.
And not only do they say that David hasn't told a story in a long time, but in the order of events, because the continuity is messed up, the Lonely Ghost before this one in episode 3, David tells that story. So
that's funny.
They go from David telling the story in episode 3 to being like, you haven't told one in a long time. But if you think about it, well, not really.
I mean, it could be that they haven't met in a while, but the whole you haven't told one, it's like other people have.
Unless we're not seeing every episode.
Ooh.
They might meet every week or regularly.
We only join them sometimes.
We only see them sometimes for the highlights. Apparently, they do this more often than we get to see, which is awesome. They probably do.
That's very interesting.
I think these are fun details.
Yeah. That's a fun world to imagine.
So we're establishing canon. We're beginning to understand what happens here. David agrees, I've been planning this for a long time. I'm going to tell this story. So Gary's like, hey, take it away. And so he hands him the bag of this magical midnight dust, which is
non-dairy creamer.
Non-dairy creamer. It's insane.
We learned that from the Orange Years documentary we keep mentioning.
Fitting, too, because, what would these kids have?
Sure. What do you have access to?
If Gary, as a kid, was like, I'm in a science class, I'm a science nerd, the chemistry teacher says, blah, 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 we're going to blow up Coffee Mate today. And he just goes, I'm going to throw that in the fire. How cool would that be?
Yeah, he kept that. He retained it. That's canon. I believe it.
Yeah, right. Then that makes sense. In my mind, I was like, his mom would have Coffee Mate. We've had Coffee Mate in my house every day for 30 years.
You get it out of the cabinet and you head to the woods. We're not advocating for this, by the way. We'd, forest fires and all that stuff. Don't.
Oh, if you live out,
things.
If there's a burn ban, don't light fires for sure. Make sure it's safe.
Just figure we might as well throw that disclaimer out there.
Yeah, so David takes a handful of the midnight dust and throws it on the fire. And for the first time in the history of the world, kids all across the nation heard, submitted for the approval of the Midnight Society. I call this story.
Love it.
And then he says, the tale of the Twisted Claw. So we see the words on the screen and then we go right into the episode. So it's partially narrated with voiceover, and they kind of give a little bit like, oh, it was mischief night, and these are the things that were happening. So it's mischief night. There's a bunch of kids rolling the yard, and then we see our two main dudes, which, should we call them heroes? Are they heroes or are they little punks?
They're protagonists in the story.
They're protagonists, our lead protagonists.
There are a lot of punky little kids in this
bunch of little
show.
Jerks. We've got Kevin, played by Maxwell Medeiros. And then Dougie Freeman, played by Noah Plenner. Noah later reappeared in season 2 in The Tale of the Magician's Assistant. He played Todd Marker.
Love when they come back.
Noah's brother, Benjamin Plenner, he appeared in Jake and the Leprechaun as Jake Joyson.
Wow.
So 2 brothers got 2 leads.
That's so fun.
He was also in a revival series episode, The Tale of Highway 13, as Justin. There's going to be a lot of that.
Yeah.
A lot of these characters overlap.
Yeah, they do.
It's really interesting. Actors play multiple characters or they're related to somebody who's on the show. So we're going to do a lot of that.
Yes.
Noah, what I thought was funny was he did a TV series called Gramps, which is funny because he says Gramps in this episode.
He does multiple times.
Yeah, it's a lot. And I've never seriously used the word Gramps in my entire life, ever.
Me either.
So I think it's so funny.
That's what he called his Gramps. I had a pawpaw, so,
Mine were all dead, so I never really... So, as per usual in these kinds of shows, one of them is a little punk and one's more of the hesitant, kind of scared one. Dougie is more hesitant, whereas Kevin is the arrogant, rude one who's like, don't be a wuss.
There's always one of those. Always.
There's always one of those. You see him at the gate, they're looking up at the big scary house and they, you get that it's like the witch's house because he's like, what's the matter? You afraid the witch is going to get you? He's not like a newsie. I don't know why I said it like that. But
I wish he was a newsie. Then he could do
Canadian.
a backflip and some acrobatics.
Yeah, exactly.
Sounds great.
So he's like, oh, there's no such thing. Talking about witches, But now we know for a fact that witches do exist and that she's going to get them.
Mm-hmm.
And this is little old lady and her house is enormous because clearly the cost of living is so low in Canada.
Oh, man.
It's a fact.
And I mean,
basically just retire there.
Housing market was totally different and they could buy the house probably with $10. So
oh yeah, lucky.
That's my jaded millennial butt talking. Anyway, continue.
Buy a house in Canada
in the 90s.
If I could, I would so buy a house in Canada in the 90s.
Oh, I mean, same.
If I could retroactively,
if I could buy a house in the 90s, geez, I'm doing everything wrong.
I love the houses in the 90s. They're so good. They're still standing. A lot of them.
I live in a house from the 80s, to be clear, but I didn't buy it in the 80s.
Oh, my house is from the 50s. So we're doing something right. I think it's full of asbestos. So that's why I'm sick all the time. So they sneak up and Miss Clove is already peeking out the window. She already knows they're there. Because if you step on a witch's yard, it's like a monster house.
It's like aware. It's hyper aware.
It knows you're there. So she knows they're there. She's peeking out. Her name is Miss Clove. She's played by Ann Page, who, you probably know this. She's married to Aaron Tager.
Yes.
Who plays Dr. Vink.
That's right. With a v.
And also Zebo. So I love this detail because can you imagine how great that would be? That's the goal.
That's the
you
dream.
And your spouse,
that is the dream.
You're so weird together and you're so creepy and you just have such a fun like thespian's life that you are on this children's horror anthology and you both have two like leading roles as like multiple times.
As villains.
As these creepy villains. And you get to just like cackle together.
So good. Like,
what do you think they do in their free time?
Yeah, who knows what oh man, they have so much fun.
Yeah, that's the dream.
I want to be their friend.
I mean, gosh, it's got to be great. I'm sure their house was full of all kinds of paraphernalia, just like from spooky stuff they did. So we see Aaron Tager multiple times.
Yes.
I don't know about Ann Page.
Me neither.
So they sneak up, and I don't know why you would even do this, but he's going to go like silly putty the front door.
It's shaving cream.
Is it shaving cream? Okay.
I think it's shaving cream.
He's just going to like cream the front door.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I don't know. He's going to boo her, I guess. She opens it at the right exact moment and he just squirts her right in the face. So he just creams her.
Which, I mean, I felt kind of bad for her, honestly. She's an old lady.
No, she is not the villain here.
True.
But so she's got in the face. She's stumbling around. She goes into her house, knocks her vase off of the stand, this vase, and it breaks, it shatters, right?
I hate that sound. Glass breaking. So unsettling.
They kind of like stare in disbelief, and then they run away, and she comes out on the porch after them and just sort of like is looking at them. And she has this moment. It's super spooky. She takes her glasses off. The shaving cream's like jiggling on her face. She's trembling with this like anger. And then she composes herself, and then she slowly smirks and it turns into like this grin, and the grin becomes a giggle, and then the giggle becomes a chortle, and then the chortle becomes a guffaw.
What a progression.
Is this cackle?
What a journey we took.
Is this
maniacal.
Like maniacal cackle at the end, and it's just so spooky.
Gotta love a good witch's laugh. I always think of this is different. Granted, this is her own brand of witch's laugh, but there's the classic, Wizard of Oz, that kind of laugh. My dad does a great witch's laugh.
Oh, can you get a recording of him doing that?
Oh, I should. That'd be fantastic.
That'd be so we'll play it on the air, yeah. That'd be so
There's
good.
always a witch's laugh.
So anyway, she brings her own take, but she does a good job. It's super because it's understated.
It's more, I was going to say, it's unsettling. It's not that like
realistic,
nasally, like echoing, I'm a scary, witch. It's more of I'm a deranged, disturbed person. It's more what you get from it. It's the way that it grows.
And that comes back later.
Now that we've discussed a laugh for, a minute and a half.
But still.
It's pretty unsettling.
There's a lot to a laugh and how you do it and where it comes from in your body.
And this one is not fun to hear.
So now we cut to the next day. It's no longer Mischief Night. It's Halloween, the best night of the year. Dougie is home and he's in this incredibly 90s, like nostalgic house. I mean, the wallpaper is like blue and floral. The carpet on the stairs is like that salmon color carpet.
Yes.
I mean, it's like so many colors. It's so perfect.
It's that design. Yeah, 90s design.
Suburban perfection. I don't know. It's so crisp and clean. It's like mom just vacuumed. Mom cleaned the house today.
That is totally the feeling. Yeah. In a lot of these episodes, when you're, in the house with the families,
that's how it feels.
Takes you back.
I love that feeling. So yeah, you see Dougie pretending to like choke to death or die. He tries to scare his dad, and he says this very important line. Gramps used to at least pretend to be afraid or be scared, and his dad's just like can't be bothered with the newspaper. It's just like, yeah, sure. Did you finish your dinner? It's honestly really funny.
He really committed to it.
Mr. Freeman is played by Paul Stewart. That's Dougie's dad. And he had a long career. I think he's still filming things. He played the school doctor in The Covenant from 2006 in that film. And then Linda Smith, the mother who pops out, Mrs. Freeman.
She has a passing resemblance to the mom from Halloween Town.
Oh, yeah, she does.
She totally does, but that's not the same lady, so. Disappointing.
She plays Diane Tyler in one of the revival seasons, The Tale of the Stone Maiden.
They used her again. They liked her.
She played Rachel's mother in the new Pet Sematary that came out in 2019.
Yes.
So that's very interesting. So, they're getting ready to go. Kevin's a bum. Dougie's, I don't even know what that mask is.
It's like exaggerated, wrinkly, big old ears.
I'm sure it's something, but I don't know what it's called.
Yeah.
So, if anybody knows, let us know.
Yeah.
So, as they're leaving, a group of kids shows up. Kevin, says, like, I heard that the candy's poison this year. And, that's just like harkens back to all those old fears
year.
from like Halloween.
Yeah, we weren't allowed to eat anything until we got home, dumped everything out.
Dump it all on the floor. Yeah.
And then
Big
everybody
pile.
goes through it. Yeah. Because at the time, I don't know, I feel like there were news articles and different, instances of needles and different just horrific,
a lot of that was
horrible.
It's urban legend.
It didn't happen.
Yeah, I've listened to a lot of podcasts and stuff on this. I meant to research and figure out the actual instance. There's only one instance on record where any candy was tampered with that I remember learning about. And it was this guy who intentionally laced these pixie sticks to kill his own son. I don't remember the exact specifics, but
it was his kid.
It was his kid. It was an isolated event. It did happen, but it wasn't to harm other children. It was just to get his child.
It's so wild how things spread.
Really weird.
But every kid that's our age, every single kid, I guarantee, probably remembers either thinking about that or having their candy checked by their parents or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Anything that was I wouldn't have wanted to eat it anyway, probably, but anything that just didn't look right, anything that was kind of unwrapped.
Always threw it out.
They'd always, immediately throw it away.
However, having said that, there have been a few really crazy instances just this year in 2021 that are still being investigated, one of which has already been proven as a hoax. But we will cover all of those details and many others next October when we do a full breakdown of the history of Halloween, aka the ancient Celtic holiday Samhain, including the darker, truer, crimier side of this frightfully nostalgic pastime. So it's the end of Halloween night, and they're passing by Miss Clove's house. So, Dougie wants to go home. Kevin's like, but we could be the only kids brave enough to go to the witch's house on Halloween. And here's where it gets really interesting. So she's super creepy about this. They knock and she answers and she's like, yes. And she's so creepy.
She really is.
Treat.
Yeah. As if she doesn't know what they're doing.
Yeah, she's so confused.
This is not a ritual she's accustomed to, which is, to me, it's immediately like, she's tricking you. This isn't safe. She knows. Clearly she knows what this is,
Well, yeah, she says she's so glad someone finally came. She's been waiting on someone to come.
She just seems so confused. So because it has never happened. Yeah.
Yeah, she's trying to lure them inside, I guess, because she's like, yeah, come in. They're like, okay. So they go in, and she's like, you know what? Because you boys came, I'm gonna give you a special treat. And it's so spooky. It's so dark.
I don't want whatever you're selling.
I don't want your special treat, old lady. Get out of here. What is it? She keeps saying the word special. You're special little boys. I'm going to give you a special treat. I hate the special. Yeah. Ugh. And she disappears into this other room. And you're like, what is it? And then Dougie acknowledges, well, the vase is still broken. She didn't clean it up. It's still on the floor. Mm-hmm. While she's in the other room, I just imagined she's got this special treat coming. And she's in the other room and they're standing there. And I just imagine, oh, boys, are you ready for your special treat? And they just go around the corner and she's sucking on a lemon for no reason.
I did not go there.
She's like,
ew.
You boys ever play lemon mouth?
Gross.
She's just
that's the worst.
So that doesn't happen. That doesn't happen. But
it doesn't. That's not canon. That is Christian's imagination.
I'm going to go there every time. Sorry. That doesn't happen. What happens is she comes back around. She has this box and she goes to open it and it plays music. It's not a music box, but music comes from the box. It's really weird. And inside of it is this wooden vulture's claw. She's like, it's not real. I don't know wwhy it wasn't just a real claw. Honestly, I don't know why it wasn't.
Yeah, it could have been.
Petrified, mummified claw, unless they thought that was too grotesque for children's horror. I got an owl's talon. Maybe
they didn't, I don't know. Animal cruelty. They're just no, maybe. It's not a real animal.
They had to just say it.
No owls were harmed in the making.
It's a special treat for two special boys. And she tells them, the classic thing. It grants wishes. You'll get 3 each. But, she gives them that same warning, but be careful what you wish for because you just might get it. Mm-hmm. So spooky.
Well, she does that, and then she just stares after them with this blank look, like she goes somewhere else.
Yeah, she goes totally deadpan. Her face just like drops, and she just stares at them. It's so creepy.
Yeah, it's like she loses all emotion, all like she's not in control of her faculties.
All of her effort went into luring the children in, and now she's used up all of her energy. Like now she's totally like expelled all of it, and she's done. She's done her job, and she can rest. There's just something so eerie about a female like villain,
because you're conditioned to trust more so, or they're supposed to be nurturing.
Exactly. Yeah, that's what I was thinking, is like, you're always told as a kid, if you get lost or something happens, find a woman.
Well, I always heard, my mom always would say, like, find a mom, find another woman with kids. Yeah.
So it was like to be lured in like a witch from like Hansel and Gretel, or like the other mother from Coraline. It's like you're their prey, like you're their goal, and you're special little boys and get a special treat. And then she just like shuts down.
It's a combination of that nurturing energy, but it's very malicious.
It's very malicious. Yeah. So spooky. So they don't want the claw. They're trying to not take it, right? But she's like insisting. She's like, please, no, take it. It's yours. So I think they take it just so they can leave. Just to like get out of there.
Yeah.
They go, they're talking about how strange she was, and Dougie makes the first wish by accident. He's holding it. He says, I wish we could just lose trick-or-treating and get out of here and go home or whatever.
I mean, but what kid doesn't want to trick or treat?
I know, it's so weird.
I had a time with that. I was like, dude, this isn't realistic. All kids want. I mean, I'm sure there are
unless
kids.
You just got super scared and you're like,
or you're really tired. I mean, I've definitely we had some great times trick or treating. But my dad and our neighbor, Miss Brenda, our neighbor's mom, they were like, we're gonna hit every house, and we would be dragging by the end of it. Like we would be, can we go home?
That was our goal, to hit every house in the neighborhood. And then by the time we made it to like the first street, we were like, we'll just go home. It's 8:30.
Yeah, my mom and her dad would then like come in their car and like trade out our bags. We'd like dump out our candy, unload, and then keep going. Oh man, we had a time. We had good Halloweens.
So they leave, and out of nowhere, this like group of punks comes and like tries to take their candy.
I just thought of like the hyenas in Lion King, especially in Lion King 2. There's that song where it's like chow down, and or it may be the Broadway actually. So I'm really going off, but like
I saw the Broadway, but I don't think I saw the second.
The hyenas have this song called Chow Down, and there's this electric guitar just that like pierces through everything, and know something's gonna go down, and you're in trouble. Yeah. So that's what it reminded me of. Nice. Chow down. About to eat you. Or something. Yeah.
So they come, they get their candy stolen, they make a run for it, they get away. These kids chase them on their bikes. They just go, okay, we're done. Let's go home. That was too weird. So they're kind of like going, maybe that worked. I don't know. Coincidence? Maybe not. Now it's the next day. They're standing in the hallway. They're talking about the claw, and Kevin, he's like, I'm going to get the thing I've wanted since I was a kid. He looks over at Bostic, this like, just like handsome kid, like against the locker with his like cool clothes on, talking to the girls.
I mean, who wouldn't want Bostic? He's pretty cool.
He's a cool dude. It's a cool dude. So Bostic is there. He's all like super chill with the ladies. He's got his pearly whites and his flowing blonde hair. He's played by Jason Tremblay.
He is.
Who is this like athletic kid, super cool. And he also came back in the first episode to play Denny Crocker in the Phantom Cab.
Pretty cool that he got to be in the pilot, and episode 1.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Kind of cool.
Yeah, so he's a chill dude.
I saw his name, Tremblay, and I was immediately like, is that? It couldn't be. It is, in fact, the father of Jacob Tremblay, who most people would probably know from the film Wonder that came out in 2017. He was the main character in that. But the funnest fact for you and I is that
I'm picking up.
He actually played Cody in Before I Wake and Bradley Trevor in Dr. Sleep.
Yep,
both directed by our favorite director and horror figure of all time, Mike Flanagan.
He's a horrifying man.
He's a horrifying man with a horrifying job. No, he does a fantastic job. Creator and director of Haunting of Hill House, and then Haunting of Bly Manor, and
most recently Midnight Mass,
and many horror films that are really great.
Yes,
and we love him very much. Love Mike Flanagan.
Love his style.
Very cool all
fantastic.
around. But I just loved that he's actually the father of Jacob Tremblay that's in 2 Mike Flanagan films. But I thought it was cool because it's like his DNA, you know, like
it's his spawn.
Yeah, like his spawn are actors, and his daughters are both also actors.
It is very cool.
His daughters are actresses that have been in Wayward Pines, Twilight Zone, and Supernatural, like a reboot of Twilight Zone, I should say. So they've all done this kind of creepy stuff.
That's super dope.
And Jacob Tremblay is also the voice of Luca in the Pixar film Luca.
No way.
Yeah.
That is so cool. I did not know that. That's a big, he's now on the map. He's officially,
oh man.
He's made it. He's doing
made it. He made it.
Well, he made it when he was in Room too.
And I mean, Mike Flanagan is an incredible director, and you know, we are so like enamored with the way that he directs kids and the performances that he's able to get from kids. Yeah. So I thought it was super cool that that's the child of, it's a legacy thing. And
yeah, that's pretty awesome.
Yeah. Jason Tremblay. Shout out to him. Good job. But it's pretty funny because you see him as Bostic, and in episode 1, he's clearly older.
Oh,
when
so
he
much
plays
older.
Denny.
Yeah.
So obviously it would have probably been a couple of years or at least a year between. So
he looks different enough too.
And he plays such a different dude. You wouldn't immediately think. So fun facts.
At least Bostic was nice.
Bostic
wished Kevin good luck.
He did.
All right. So we're at this track meet. He wishes that he could beat Bostic in the 600 race because he's so sick of Bostic being a better athlete.
He wants to be the winner. Tensions are high. It's gym class.
You know, Bostic's running around giving other kids high fives. Super weird.
I would give anything to be in that class or at that meet. Just the fluffy green grass. It's autumn.
Oh, it was beautiful
time
there.
At school. I don't know. Just
they're all in their like medium length white t-shirts. The gym teacher is played by Gordon Maston, as we said before. He came back later in The Tale of the Gruesome Gourmets as Mr. Collins. He's just screaming into like a megaphone type thing. They run this race, they have this race, and what happens is, out of nowhere, on the last leg, a black dog.
Beautiful dog,
gorgeous. But he trips Bostic. Bostic breaks his leg. I mean, it's like really brutal.
Yeah, violent.
He breaks his leg. Kevin leaps over him triumphantly, and he wins the race, right? And of course, Dougie sees the whole thing. Dougie's like, "You didn't win, you jerk. A dog tripped him." And then they're like, "What dog? There's no dog."
I don't know if anybody else felt this way when they were watching it. And I don't know if it was just this rewatch or if I would have thought this way as a child. But I had this moment where I was like, does the dog attack him? Because the way that he just comes out of nowhere, I was like, yikes.
Yeah, if he just like torn into his calf and just like ripped him open, that would have been nice. That's like the when we do like a reboot one day of Are You Afraid of the Dark, and it's just all like
the dogs actually attack.
Rated R versions.
Wow, what a
cool
concept!
It'd be fun. I would do it. Now, after that happens, we get some exposition from the Midnight Society. So there's always a point in the episode where we cut back to the Midnight Society, and they sort of weigh in. They give their perspective, their opinion. They make guesses on what's happening. Mm-hmm. And so this is kind of where they kind of help the audience in case you're a young child or you're not like quite getting it.
Yeah.
They're all like,
they help you along a little bit.
So they made one wish each and it came true. And it's like, oh yeah, no shit.
I also thought it was funny that Gary was like, he was like, it's something evil happened each time to make the wish come true. And then he said, cool.
Yeah, he's like, cool. Yeah. I know, yeah. I would hang out with Gary. Gary's a cool
Me
guy.
too. Oh man, anytime.
I'm not cool. We're not cool enough for Gary though. I'm not cool.
Nah. Or Ross Hall.
No way. Dude, he's a meteorologist. Okay, so now we're back in the story. This classic, like, I guess like a Friday night or something, you know, Dougie's parents are out to eat. Kevin comes over. They're just chilling, but they're not having a good time because they're arguing. They're bickering. They're like, but, you know, we got the claw and the bad things happen and all this stuff, and it's your fault because Kevin's got his gold medal. He's all super stoked that he won the race, and he's a real punk. And Dougie's the only one that has any common sense.
And the moral of the thing.
Yeah.
He's like, you didn't really win that. It's not real.
They're talking about it, and they get in this big argument where Dougie is like fixated on telling his parents. I don't know. He says, my folks.
I get it, though.
Well, yeah, I mean, yeah.
I understand.
You didn't want
I
your
had
parents
that
to
too.
find out.
Like, dude, but if bad things happened or if like I knew I did something wrong, the immediate like dilemma in my brain was like, I have to tell. Like, I wasn't like a tattletale necessarily on other people, but for myself, I was always convicted to just be like, oh no.
Yeah. I guess if you saw the opportunity to get out of trouble by sort of like getting ahead of the situation, like, hey, so
by the way, I was good about being upfront, which is really just, you know, religious guilt.
Oh yeah, well, our upbringing,
all of that stuff in our upbringing, in our brains, but
church trauma
for these kids, he was just very
a good kid.
Yeah, he wanted to be honest, and he probably wanted, you know, there's some degree of like we've lost control. We need an adult to help us fix this. which I also understand.
Yeah, you kind of realize like, we're just kids. I'm just a kid. I don't know how to handle this.
And I mean, probably on purpose for the audience, you know, for this is the first ever episode they've done of this. They're probably like, yeah, we want to encourage the kids to reach out to an adult.
Go to your parents with a problem. Yeah, you should.
If you ever are given a twisted claw that's magical, and go to your parents. Tell them.
Go find an adult.
Like that subliminal.
Yeah, that's pretty smart, honestly.
Yeah.
So this big argument, he says, my folks. And Kevin takes it and says, man, I wish you'd lose your folks. Wrong words, Kevin.
I hated that.
Poor choice of words.
Gosh, I hated it so much.
And they're like, oh, shoot, you wished I'd lose my parents. And immediately the phone rings. And it's like a lieutenant. He tells him, you know, your parents have been in a really bad car wreck and they're not okay and like all this stuff. And so he slams the phone down. He rips it out of the wall. So dramatic.
I mean, but like, damn, it's very, that's heavy.
Yeah. It's very heavy. So I think that.
No wonder I was messed up as a child. Like that was my biggest fear.
So we both had that anxiety about like our parents being gone or like not being able to get in touch with our parents. I know we've discussed this.
Particularly in a car accident.
Yes, mine too.
Yeah, we both had very much.
That was my distinct fear. I had that.
Is it because of the show?
Well, I'm like watching it again. I'm like, this is sparking something inside of me. Because if I went to a friend's house and I knew my parents were out driving around doing stuff, I was so afraid they were going to get in a car wreck and die.
Same.
And then if I was home, even with my sisters or whatever, and I knew my parents were gone to do something, so afraid they were going to get in a car wreck and die. I don't know why.
Same exact fear.
Yeah. So I wonder if it didn't come from just like watching this and that sticking in our psyche of being like, your parents can go out to eat and die.
And they can.
Just because you go do something safe doesn't mean they're going to be safe.
Yes. And that stuck for me big time. This show, but I think a lot of others, like a lot of the things that we're going to cover on this podcast in general, parents are usually not safe. And in all the Disney movies, they don't start until the parents die. And like,
well, that's the hero's journey.
It is. Yeah. But it's ingrained in so much 80s and 90s culture too, to a degree I really don't feel like it is today. And that shaped my thinking.
Oh yeah. There was like your parents dying, quicksand, you know, like TNT bombs and stuff like that. There are these things that are represented in children's like entertainment. And it was oftentimes losing your parents. Like
conceivably, that's the scariest thing. And I think for children's horror, that's the easiest place to go, really.
Yeah, you lose your entire safety net, everything you know about reality.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's super spooky. So yeah, I don't know if it's really represented a lot today, but it was rampant in the 90s.
Yeah.
It was like a bitter dose of reality.
Gosh.
Super dark. That's pretty dark.
That's, hey, that
we're not going to say it that often.
Dark.
Losing your parents like that, it's a big deal.
It really is.
So Dougie doesn't know what to do. He's freaking out. He knows his parents are gone. He's like, what do I do? What's the only other adult? It's his grandfather, his Gramps. Mm-hmm. He's already mentioned his Gramps. He misses his grandfather. And without thinking, he just says, man, I wish Gramps was here. He'd know what to do. Kevin's like, Dougie, your grandfather's dead.
Dun, dun, dun.
It's this big moment, right? So he runs to the window and they look out. And there's this like super dope Cadillac coming down the street, just rolling down. That shot is so iconic.
Real slow.
It's so scary. And so you have this like kind of race between the boys to make another wish. They each have one more wish, right? Mm-hmm. What's the right wish to make? Because now they know that dead grandpa is pulling up. He's about to come to the front door.
There's like a slow honk.
Yeah. You hear the knock on the front door once he gets there. And Kevin's like, I got one more wish and I'm not going to meet a ghost. Like, he's just like, you don't know what he's going to look like, dude. Like, he could be like a skeleton. He could be rotten. He could be.
Which is so gross. And I like.
Yeah, it's so
As a kid, I feel like that wouldn't have occurred to me. But then in that moment, it does. And it's like, ew. Like, there could be a rotting corpse at your door.
You could easily say, yeah, this is just grandpa. But Kevin's like, nah, dude. He's been dead, man. Like, he's been in the ground.
You don't know what you're going to get.
Did he just climb out of his grave, find a car, and drive here?
Ugh.
Come on. This is really the only part of the Monkey's Paw that's like a direct adaptation from that story.
Yeah.
Everything else is sort of twisted and different, other than the three wishes. But what happens is, you know, the father wishes for like some money. And how they get it is his son goes to work the next day, dies at the factory, or dies in a piece of machinery, gets caught. It's very brutal. And the company wishes to give them the money that he asked for, the exact specific amount for his son dying. And so they end up going, that's it. All we have to do is wish for him to come back. They do it, and then there's the slow approach of the son, whatever version of the son it is, coming back to the house and knocking on the door.
Yikes.
And the whole time, the father, because he dropped the claw, or the monkey's paw, he's trying to find it so he can make a third wish to basically make it all go away.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of the same
climax.
Yeah, the same rise in action, the same climax of like, there's a dead person and you don't know what it's going to be. And so you have to make it go away before it can get in the house. Which is a really big fear of mine. I have that same like nightmare of something trying to get in my house like all the time.
Me
which
too.
I think is just social anxiety.
We've talked about that.
It's classic horror. I mean, it's perfect. Honestly, it's super dark that they actually did that the same thing. There's going to be a corpse. That's pretty dark. A corpse trying to get into the house, and you have to make the exact right wish that won't have horrible consequences to what you say.
And I kind of love that like language and wordplay and linguistics, like that is the answer.
Oh yeah, that's the answer. Exactly. It's how you phrase what you're asking for. So it's also about be intentional, be careful.
Yeah.
Your words have a lot of power.
Mm-hmm.
Man. Anyway, they fight, they're on the floor, they're wrestling, and finally Dougie gets it. And he's like, dude, the vase broke. It's all about the vase. He apologizes for it and says, I wish it never happened.
Mm-hmm. And he says, I want to make the wish that I should have wished all along, or the first wish I should have made, or whatever.
He's like, man, we should have immediately, if we had the wish, we should have not been selfish and thought of another person.
Mm-hmm.
We should have wished that we hadn't harmed her in the first place.
Yeah.
So he does that. The knocking kind of continues and he goes to open it and it's his parents, right? They're alive.
They forgot their keys.
Kevin's like hiding under the furniture and the dad walks in and he's just like, oh, hey, Kev. Like, and then they sort of do this sort of like wrapping up of events, you know, this happened. And if that didn't happen, then parents didn't get in the car wreck and I didn't smash the phone.
And honestly, when he was going through that list, all I could think was like, it finally just occurred to me that his shirt that he's wearing is like 4 sizes too big, as was tradition in the 90s, I guess, as was style. But it was just so funny. He's this little child in like this massive, massive shirt.
I wonder if that was intentional to make him look smaller than he actually was.
Maybe.
Like more innocent, more vulnerable.
Perhaps.
I wonder.
But it was also the
But
thing,
I mean, I think
the
Kevin still had some pretty baggy clothes on too. I don't know.
Yeah.
Everything is taken care of. Everything's back to normal, except there's one more knock, or like I think the doorbell rings this time. I don't remember. And they go open the door and there's the vase. Unbroken, which I don't know why she gave it to them, but she did.
I was like, what are these kids going to do with that vase except for break it? Like, that is the only possible outcome of giving 2 young boys a beautiful, like,
they're
ornate
just gonna break it.
vase. Like, huge. It's huge. It's like, you know.
It's enormous.
2,
it comes
3
up to their
feet tall.
bellies, yeah.
Yeah.
And so, I don't know, but sitting on top of the vase is this letter that says, trick or treat. And so it's a nice little Halloween ending. It's a Halloween special little moment that it's like sweet and I get it. But I would have loved a different ending, but it's still fine because it's just like,
it wraps it up. You put a bow on it.
Trick or treat.
And you know, it's that special where it's like, if this series doesn't go, this was a fun little Halloween thing.
It ended the whole it's like cool. Yeah. These kids live in eternity out there telling stories, and this is just one of them.
Yeah, we pop back out to the Midnight Society, and
so they're all thoroughly spooked, and they're all just like looking around like, ooh.
They're like, okay, yeah, that was a good one.
And then, you know, as per usual, Gary, he declares the meeting closed. And he says, you know, until next time, pleasant dreams, everyone. Oh. And it's just so good.
Oh, it feels good in my heart.
That's the Tale of the Twisted Claw.
Thanks. The Tale of the Twisted Claw. I loved it. I liked that was the first one that they let off with. And
it's classic horror. I mean, they could have done a number of different things, but I think The Monkey's Paw was good because it's relatable for children. There's a moral to it. It was easily adaptable, I feel like. But it was done so well.
And it's easy to catch on. You know, you're quickly picking up on it. You understand it, even if you are a young kid.
I think that was an easy sell to the network, and it would have been an easy sell to the parents, too, of like, this is all about cause and effect, actions and consequences, and we're going to teach kids not to be selfish jerks. So how would you rate this?
Oh, yeah. Okay. So that's something that we want to do is kind of talk about how scary we think it is, maybe scale of 1 to 10. I personally, there were scary elements, and definitely the car accident really jacks it up for me. So I'd say maybe like a 4 or 5. Yeah. Something in that vein, mostly because of the car accident. The magical element too, like, I don't know, I could maybe go as high as 6 because it's like that, there's always that witch character kind of around the corner. We all know that spooky house. I don't know. My rating system's going to be all over the place, but I kind of go by like whether it's likely to happen to me. Like that's kind of how I place it. This? Yeah, like the realism really does a lot for me in terms of how scary it is. And but the car accident, granted, I don't think that that's ever going to happen to me with the wishes and the claw, but that outcome is pretty dark.
Yeah.
How would you rate this episode?
I was going to say about a 6.
Yeah.
Because the car wreck, I feel like, had a significant impact on my view of the world, how I perceive like the possibility of really horrible things happening all the time, which is like all I think about is just worst case scenarios.
You're right. I mean, yeah, I should probably rate it higher. It's
the
bad.
episode itself isn't super scary. I love the ominous approach of the corpse at the end, or ghost, or whatever he is. That gets me. That kind of stuff is always spooky. That's the kind of stuff. That's the horror I love.
Yeah, I was just about to say
what's behind the closed door. You know what's out there.
Yes, it does the thing that we love, which they don't show us the monster.
Yes.
In that instance.
Yes.
And you and I talk about this a lot, but it's that idea in horror and in general, like when you're doing anything suspenseful or scary, you don't show the monster, and once you show it, you lose kind of your edge. As a filmmaker, thinking in those terms, I personally just really like it when they can hold out that suspense
as long as you can, and they never show
the fear of the unknown is very powerful.
Oh yeah. So while the episode itself wasn't super scary, I would say that there were thematic elements that were frightening. Things that you can think about later, or that are more existential in nature.
Yes.
Or just sometimes when you wake up at 3 a.m. and you think, did I just hear a footstep?
Yeah.
What was that? Because of those moments, I'd give it like a solid 6. I'd say there are much scarier episodes of the show.
They're definitely
it's a good one,
and it's a great introduction.
Great introduction because it's scary, but it's palatable, and parents aren't going to immediately shut it down. They're going to go, huh, that was interesting. It had a moral. It had a nice ending. There's a little trick or treat. She wasn't evil. She wasn't malicious. She just wanted to teach them a lesson for being little punks, for being mischievous.
Wow.
So I like it. It was good. It was good.
Good time.
Very good times.
So we want to hear what you guys think of that episode. Do you think it was scary? Or were you also terrified of your parents getting into a car accident every time they left the house?
Yeah, what's
your
memory?
Or were late to pick you up from school? Or they dropped you off to stay with a friend and you couldn't do anything at all ever when you were a kid? Because that was my experience.
Same.
But we'd love to hear what you think. Our email is that'sprettydarkpodcast@gmail.com. And then we're on social media as well. That's Pretty Dark on Facebook. That's Pretty Dark Podcast, I think, is the handle there, and on Instagram, and just That's Pretty Dark on TikTok. And we hope to get, some fun content up there, to kind of point back to what we're doing and why we're doing it, and all the scary, spooky things that we love. Thanks for clicking. Keep clicking.
Subscribe, rate, and review.
Press our buttons.
Click our clackities, and go cackle in the night like you're a witch. Go guffaw.
That's your homework. Oh my god. Okay.
All right.
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks for listening to That's Pretty Dark, written and produced by Christian Baxter Mott and Kaylin Andrews.
Our music is composed by Jonathan Simmons, and our art is provided by Paige Garland at Power Girl Illustration.
Join the collective nostalgia and follow us on Facebook and Instagram at That's Pretty Dark Podcast.
Share your experiences and let us know what shows, films, or villains still haunt you from childhood at that'sprettyddarkpodcast@gmail.com. Remember, you're never really alone.
So until next time, sweet dreams, everyone.